What's up, everyone? We're here with Edward Bosco at Kitsunekon 2022. We're going to take a little bit of your time. Appreciate you taking the time today. So we had some time to talk before.
We did.
So I know we got some stuff we're going to be talking about, but we'll do the ask you some questions first part, and then we'll go into wrestling, and it'll be fine.
Okay, great, awesome.
They'll get over it, and that'll be fine. So you had a kind of an interesting start to like voice acting in general. So I know it started like back in 2010, but can you kind of like bring me back to this, like why did the jump happen, like that kind of thing? Like what brought you to voice acting?
Yeah, so initially I was a journalism student at Columbia College. I graduated in Chicago, and I was looking to be a sports play-by-play guy because I'm a huge sports fan.
Right.
However, it's a tough market to break into, so you're not going to typically start in Chicago, so I would have had to move to a very small city, work my way up to a medium city like a Green Bay, and then eventually get back to Chicago.
Okay.
So during that time, I really was a fan of Red versus Blue.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, I really want to be a part of this. I didn't have any experience. I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought you could do that. You just asked them if you could be in it.
Can I just do this now?
So in the process of looking for that, I found a bunch of student films and indie projects that were being done. And I started auditioning for those, just thinking, oh, this will be fun. Turns out, even with no training, I had a knack for it because I would get cast in a couple of things.
Right.
And then the first project that I ever worked on was a game called Sequence that my future roommate would be working on.
Oh, okay.
I was interning in 2010, and he was like, do you want to read on this? So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll read on it. I ended up getting cast. The character's name was Eddie. He always spoke in, like, The Rock in the third person.
Oh, okay.
And he would narrate everything that he's doing.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. Then I ended up doing a game called Dust and Elysian Tale, and I helped with the casting on that a little bit, and I also did the voice of Ara, and that was like the first huge game that I was ever a part of. And if you look at that cast list, you'll see a lot of familiar names. A lot of us, that was our first or second project when we were starting out. Okay. So that was Xander Mobus' first project. Erica Mendez was in that with Amber Connors. Justin Briner, like all of us kind of got our start on that game.
Right.
And now all of us are doing bigger and better stuff.
Right.
Well, not better, I should say just bigger.
Bigger.
Yeah, but that was my intro into VO. And then I ended up interning at Nickelodeon in their casting department.
Right.
And in 2012, I was like, I'm going to give this a shot.
Yeah.
And so I moved out to LA, and the rest is history. I'm still kind of sort of doing it.
Yeah. So how was Nickelodeon? How was that whole process? Because it's obviously you're going from like what you said, like starting to like do some kind of independent stuff, work with friends, to Nickelodeon.
It gave me perspective on just how competitive the business was.
Right.
Because when you're working at Nickelodeon, they're getting hundreds, sometimes thousands of auditions, and when you're working with those casting people, you're hearing their methodology about how they go through all of those auditions, how they make their selections, how they pare it down to 5, and how hard it is to sometimes get executives and everybody to agree on one particular voice. So who gets chosen in the end sometimes has absolutely nothing to do with your talent level and ability level or what you did in that particular audition.
Right.
It could be you sounded too much like the main character, can't use you. You didn't do the accent that they were looking for. Even if they specify one kind of accent, they might have went in a completely different direction.
Right.
I used the example of American Dad, where D. Bradley Baker played the fish.
Right.
It was supposed to be French. He did German. Because he had taken German, he knew that accent, and he couldn't do a French accent. And they kept asking him, like, would you mind doing French? He's like, German's what I do. If you like it, take it or leave it. And they're like, wait, well, we really like what you did, so I guess he's German now.
All right, we're rewriting it.
Which is awesome, but that's the kind of stuff. If you had done a French accent all the way through, and they go with German, you're like, what did I do wrong? Absolutely nothing. They really like D, and they really like that interpretation.
Right.
And working at Nickelodeon gave me that perspective of there's so many things that go into the casting process. You can never take it personally by not getting picked on a particular project.
Right.
So that was really good starting out. And then as I started to become more and more involved in the business, that set me up to not worry about all the casting stuff because I knew how hard it was.
Right, yeah, exactly. Do you find yourself now like trying to practice different accents or different
all the time
ways of like
I was in my hotel room because I'm running D&D later today, and I was practicing voices for the NPCs.
Play D&D.
Yes, played Dungeons and Dragons. It's amazing improv game.
Just do it.
Yes. But yeah, I was practicing those accents up in my room or those characterizations.
Oh, okay.
And I'm always doing stuff like that around the house. I'm a crazy person.
Yeah,
and I totally know that.
I think you have to be crazy to be into the stuff that we're into.
Yeah, and to put yourself through the punishment of being a creative person.
Well, yeah, you kind of, if you're not crazy, then it will literally drive you insane.
Yeah, so you have to already be insane, and then you're immune.
Well, and we're both sports fans of teams that drive us insane.
Like the Cubs.
Yeah, and I'm from Michigan, so
everybody,
literally everybody at this point.
The Red Wings were your only hope for about 25 years.
Right, that was the one clinging hope, and then that's just all
exploded. The Pistons in 04.
Right, yeah.
That was like a spark.
You get brief moments of glory.
The Tigers, brief spark.
And then it's just nonstop sadness and tears. We're gonna move to wrestling now.
Oh boy, here we go.
Yeah. So
Sorry for all the anime fans out there who are waiting for talk to him about the voice thing.
no, I'm not going to. We're gonna cover everything. All right.
All right, here we go.
Jesus, gotta make everyone happy.
You do.
But you did do some voice work for wrestling.
I did.
So one of the questions I want to ask you is, you have a unique perspective on being able to see different multiple fandoms in terms of like wrestling, anime, video games, and different things. Who are just like the craziest fans?
The craziest fans?
Yes.
It honestly depends what we're. So there are certain sports cities that are nuts,
Well,
absolutely nuts. You could compare them with any fandom in the world and be like, they're crazier than anybody. Because I've never seen an anime fan throw somebody off a balcony, or somebody drop a foul ball in 2003 and the whole stadium wants to hunt this guy down to the point where they're in witness protection. So sports fans can be absolutely nuts, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to quantify that. I think if you look hard enough at any specific fandom, you'll find the crazy people, and that's just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. So we'll jump to the anime voice acting you've done.
Okay.
So going from stuff with Nickelodeon to kind of early video game work to getting kind of the bigger anime roles that you've been getting, and then coming to conventions and seeing the turnout from people, what's that experience been like for you?
Well, this is actually my first convention where they've flown me out and given me the whole rigmarole of, hey, you're an official guest of this convention and we want you to be here. So this has been a really cool experience. And honestly, for me, it's the feedback that you get from the fans and the questions that they ask you and the things that they're curious about that are awesome, because I do this to give back to the fans. I'm an entertainer by trade, and as any entertainer knows, it's all about the fans and the reaction. Right. It's the same thing with wrestling. If you go out there and nobody pops for you, it's no fun. You don't want to throw your body around for absolutely nothing. You want that feedback.
Right.
And for a voice actor in particular, it's not like we have these big press events or things that we do where we can get that feedback from the fans like some of the on-camera guys would do.
Right.
So to come to these conventions and to get that feedback is really, really, really cool.
Okay. And for you, what's it been like to work on bigger animes now? I don't know if you watched much anime yourself, or
I'm the one person that might be able to say this. I've probably been in more anime than I've watched. So the ones that I've seen are the Cowboy Bebops or the Outlaw Stars, or the stuff that was back in the day and stuff that I grew up on as Digimon.
Right.
That was huge for me as a kid, because it was on the Fox block. It was X-Men, Digimon, Spider-Man in that mid-90s range.
Right.
So I watched a lot of that stuff. There are certain shows that I work on where I'm like, I might watch this if I was just a fan of anime. There are other shows I work on where I would never watch this in a million years, but it's really fun to be a part of the story.
Right.
So that's why when people are like, what's your favorite anime? I'm like, Cowboy Bebop? Does that still count?
Yeah,
it's still really amazing.
It always works. Now, do you have anything upcoming that you want to make sure you get a chance to mention? Any new projects?
There's one project that I sadly can't talk about that I'm really excited to drop. But when it drops, I'm going to be all over Twitter being like, you guys should check this out.
Okay. So you want to go ahead and plug your Twitter? That way everyone can
check out at Ed Bosco VA on both Instagram and Twitter. And I'm also on Twitch at twitch.tv/Edward Bosco. I do all my announcements and all that stuff on social media, mostly on Twitter. But sometimes during my streams, I'll be like, hey, guys, did you know that this was out?
Okay, smart. And we'll give you any final message you'd want to say to whether it's fans, con viewers, any final message you'd want to give to everyone out there.
I just want to say thank you guys for being a fan of what we do, because without you guys supporting the media, whether it's anime, video games, cartoons, whatever it is, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. And especially during these last couple of years where it's been really rough with the pandemic and everything, your support, whether it's monetary or just your time investing in these shows, has really meant a lot, because again, we can't do this if there's not an audience for it. So you guys are the crux of what we do.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.